morning, gentlemen, ladies.
I got one.
Yeah,
Thanks. I'm good.
Okay. Well, after last week and our conversations about where we were and what it was going to cost and making our points know that they were a little bit too much, Eric and Anthony have come back and have some revision of numbers. At which point I will now ask them to tell us what they think.
Well, what we would hope to do, we produced an outline specification, and then certain lines were highlighted that need to be discussed. Is it in, is it out? And we were hoping to go sort of line by line, and just so that everyone had, it's called an outline because it doesn't go into anywhere near the detail that the final spec was.
Mm-hmm.
But just so we're all on the same page of what is included and what's not included. And then Anthony has a revised budget based on this, some of Christie's recommendations.
Yep.
And I thought we could do that afterward once we all, so, and we expect that you're going to say, what about this? You know, have some additional ones. Some things that are highlighted in red are not definitely, we got to get rid of this. It would probably be useful to get Bowen to tell us what this particular item costs, so then you can make an informed decision about whether it's in, whether it's out. Hopefully there's enough in red to more than get us to where we need to be, and then it's a question of setting priorities. So
between this outline specification and a little mini set of drawings that Andre asked for that are more in AutoCAD with a wall section, so it details all of the components.
and you can measure it.
That he can measure. Then he could put a more accurate price to his schematic estimate that he basically gave us last time around, so he can hone in on the number. You know, like he said himself, the first version was a bit of unknown because he didn't have an outline specification, so that's why we drafted this, and that package will go to him at the beginning of next week, and he'll be able to revise his numbers.
Okay.
Okay.
So,
So this is broken up into different divisions, and that's how our industry views all the components of the construction field. So Division 0 is generally the general requirements of what the construction manager or CM has to do. And then all the different divisions, you know, it just simplifies our understanding, breaks it all up.
Yep.
so obviously certain things that are in black, you're like, provide coordination of daily and final cleanup. You're not going to not do that. You're going to still clean up. Temporary fencing, you're going to provide temporary, or the contractor is going to provide temporary fencing because you may or may, even if you're not occupied, you have to secure the construction site. The first one that we identified that had been sort of in the stock procedure was the so-called blower door test. You essentially seal up the building, put a big fan, see how fast the air leaks out. It's a way of testing the construction for leaks.
This is the new construction.
Yeah, no, it's the whole building.
Oh, the whole building, okay.
And that's precisely the point. It's not a requirement. It's good procedure on a new building just to make sure, oh, somebody left a little something open in the attic and it'll find it. In fact, I'm thinking when we did the Audubon, you know, you couldn't pressurize the building. They turned on the fans and the air just whoosh, went out, and they found out that someone had left up in the attic, they had left a length of planking out, and it was open to the outside, which would have been discovered the first winter really fast. So in this case, because the new construction is going to outperform this building, it probably doesn't make sense to go through that expense. It's a few $1,000s plus a report, but you know, they all add up. So we're things that may not make sense in this situation. It was something we would have done on the other project, but probably not necessary here. The next one in this division we identified was, I know that you had voiced strongly that you wanted the library to stay open through the whole construction. there will be some thousands of dollars, won't even guess how many, but we should identify what that value is, just so we know. And remember, that cost, if we're trying to compare apples to what would have been, that was not an issue because it cost nothing to stay open in the old scenario.
But there are other alternatives we can investigate as well.
Sure.
We touched on last week, which is alternate hours, alternate days. You know, maybe go to it, instead of a 5-day week, go to a 3-day week.
Or just be open Saturday, Sunday.
So, yeah, Saturday, Sunday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, 3, which would give, you know,
5 days.
4 or 5 days of uninterrupted
Right.
access for them. Yet still providing the service. I really, I don't want to really dig my heels in because nothing is ever written in stone, but I really think it's important for us to still have some kind of presence in the community while we're doing this.
Mm-hmm. Yep,
But that's-
we just look for the low-hanging fruit and put numbers to it, so. Division 2.
Well, one of the things,
Oh.
item 2 is the performance and labor bond.
Oh, I'm sorry, I missed that, yeah.
Where it's a municipal project, typically you require that, but a performance and labor bond could be $35,000 to just ensure that the contractor is going to do everything that is expected. So there's an opportunity to not require that.
Well, there are another way that sometimes is done is with checks, dual signature checks, so that you have assurances that the money went to the ultimate party that performed the work. So that, you know, you're going to get lien waivers and everything anyway. But there are other ways, but usually that is restricted by the town's own rules, and I'm not sure what Tufton Borough says about that.
I think last time when we did this addition, the contractor had to be bonded.
That's frequently the case, but not in every community.
Well, if you want to, we can at least find out what that's going to cost.
Yeah, and whether it's required.
Right.
The Division
It's not
2,
broken
which
down
is
yet.
mostly demolition, there's a little demolition right here at this end of the building. And then the demolition of the old entry. I think I suspect we'll find that that's not doing it is not a huge savings. And, I mean, it's worth figuring out, but.
But we're taking out the whole middle here too.
Right, yes.
And changing doors and stuff.
But that happens inevitably, but what I'm saying is just not taking out that little vestibule, probably, yeah, and it also changes, it has a big impact on the capacity of the building
Yes, it
for a
does.
small savings of money, but we can identify what the dollars are. Concrete is concrete. We're not going to use weaker concrete, and we're not going to use less concrete, so I don't really know any way to find a...
So much for the pre-stressed oatmeal.
Yeah, really.
Especially since we're considering radiant slab, it has its own level of structural reinforcement requirements.
When we get to masonry, our initial concept sketch showed no masonry on the new building, and some people said, oh, it'd be really nice, it might have been you or someone, doesn't matter, said, oh, it'd be nice to get some brick to tie it to the old building, which could, or at one point we said, no, it's like the barn, and then at other times we said, no, it should be. So what we need to do is I made an allowance, I assumed 1,000 square feet, which wouldn't cover the whole thing with brick, but would mean you'd have some brick in some area. You're going to enter here where there's brick. You know, it's 10 feet high by 100 feet. That's a significant amount of brick, and it's easy to do some prorating from that. So we'll find out what that would cost if you agree. That's going in the wrong direction, but if you do some trading, say, well, we're going to accept this one, 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 and put it into. Again, it's priority. It's exterior appearance versus function or whatever. Okay, metals. I suspect, this is not your problem, the fire pond.
That's not
No.
a purview, yeah,
So maybe we'll just strike that.
yeah.
I think you're gonna get, once you have everything all fixed up and you're driving in right past there, you're gonna wanna do something about that fence or the general appearance of the fire pond. You can't leave it open, but you might wanna improve it, but we will just X that one. Okay, wood and plastics. What do we have? Wood trusses, fire retardant, wood blocking, all these things. We've identified where all the millwork is. First thing is, if you read number 7, it says circulation desk, which is often a big ticket item. If we make the drawers and the pedestals furniture items that slip under a nice counter, in other words, what's so-called carcass of the thing, but not ask a cabinet maker to build drawers and all the fussy stuff, can be significantly less expensive. And you also have the advantage you hire a left-handed person, you can move their pedestal from the right to the left or whatever. We've done this in several projects. But we'll get an alternate to have, so that you can see what the price is. In other words, what's your budget to go buying drawer units, to have it done with all the drawers. So.
Every office desk I've ever had was a door
Mm-hmm.
sitting on 2 or 3 file cabinets.
A door.
You know, finish
Yeah.
off the door, boom, there's my desk, plenty of flat space for flat surface messy.
Right.
Always worked for me. No, I'm saying that here, but, you know.
A fancy,
thought.
fancy circulation desk at a library can be in the tens of thousands of dollars.
Mm-hmm.
And so,
Would it be possible, do you think, to recycle the one we have?
it is possible. I don't know if in this exercise we want to calculate that.
Okay.
Because, you'd have to say, well, how much to take it apart?
Right.
How much to repair it?
And
how much to
there
do
are
it.
problems with it too. I mean, there are things that we all hate about it, so.
Well, in that case, yes.
I know that in Andre's understanding of what the design intent was for your space, he calculated in a little bit higher level of millwork, so wood trim around, less vinyl baseboard, but wood baseboard. He used what we did at Durham Public Library as his baseline, and because that's what our conversations were all along. So I think by clarifying now in a little bit more detail about where we would want to invest in millwork and where we don't need it,
Mhm.
will help him adjust that line item.
Okay.
All right. So then the thermal and moisture, damp proofing, there's no basement, so we don't need to do anything elaborate, but we have to do some damp proofing. We're not going to cut down on insulation. This describes a so-called flash and bat system for the wall, and we have a detail of how the wall would be built for the new construction so that Andre can put a price to it. Let me see, water trim, roof accessories. None of these things is really anything you can throw overboard. 40-year shingle is what's being called asphalt shingle for the roof. Not anything elaborate there.
You can save money there, but it's like you're going to end up coming back in 20 years to fix it. And the only other thing is we're calling out an 18-inch R60 blown-in cellulose insulation. It would be blown in right above the ceiling, so on the bottom core of the trusses. That gives you a really good cap. We keep mechanical equipment out of it. It's a very safe and efficient method, and it's small money, but to do it during construction.
Mm-hmm.
So the one thing we saw here that was worth identifying is we talked about what would it cost to take the existing portion and bring it up to the performance level. And I think we need that as a milestone, just to know what we are sacrificing if we elect not to do that. And that would include replacing the finishes, painting, everything.
Mhm.
So it's taking, now it may be possible, depending on what we discover when we get inside the exterior walls, from the inside to add insulation. Now, unfortunately, they're working right now on injectable foam insulation. It hasn't come to the market yet. But you wouldn't want to just fill the cavity that's backed up with brick with loose insulation, because moisture would just come right in and rot the building, so we don't want to do that. But we'll look at the wall details, see if there's some way to introduce insulation without ripping everything down. Likely, you're going to have to, there's likely studs behind the brick veneer, and we'd have to pull off the drywall, insulate, replace. So that's what we're going to assume for the price for the estimate of that piece. Next is doors and windows. We did add in the repair of the bow window at the other end, which of course is a cost that you wouldn't have had if you'd built a new building.
Mhm. Is that a repair or replace item?
Yeah. And then
In your thinking, was that a repair or a replace?
Replace.
Oh, okay, all right. You said repair, and I didn't know whether.
rebuild.
Yeah.
We haven't dug in, I mean, we can't really say here because we haven't pulled the thing apart
Okay.
to know what,
Yep.
I mean, I know it's got problems, but I don't know what oftentimes it's still salvageable.
Mhm.
The alternate here is to upgrade all the windows as part of the window package. So so let's find out what that's worth. Again, I should have made some of them red and some of them green, right? So some are adds and some are deducts. Finishes.
And here we also, in number 7, the drawings show
yeah.
the rolling door.
It's out.
But that's out, we know
Okay.
that's out,
Mhm.
so might as well make it clear here.
Yeah.
Oh, and also the one on the other side to the kitchen
Oh.
is just a double door, so the
So it's like,
conventional.
I mean, so it's like this sort of, that's really all we need?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Doesn't need, we'd really much rather have the storage space.
Mhm. Well, that's actually brings up a point. Jason was looking through this with us in our office, and he said, well, why don't you just do, the way we set up the plan, if you turn the plan around, it was so that you could access the kitchen independently even when the program room was in use. In other words, you can go to the end of the hall and get
Yeah.
into the kitchen, do whatever you need to do, like set up. Because if you don't need to do
I
that,
don't think we need to do that because we've got stuff in the staff room, right? I mean, there'll be the
Right.
staff room, so I don't think that's necessary.
so then the kitchen could be reduced to, as we've done in other facilities, I'm thinking in Canterbury we did this. It was just a kitchen counter in the room with doors over.
That's all this is, and I think
Yeah.
that's all we need, that's fine.
That would give you more storage.
Yes,
Or the
yes.
ability to shrink the building a little bit.
No, more storage.
Well, it makes it less elaborate.
Yes.
Okay. Score 1 for Jason. Okay. Yeah, you got that. So we've got walk-off mats at the vestibule. What else we got? Carpet tile. Just so we're all familiar with what we're assuming for the finish level. Program space. Carpet tile, painted gypsum wallboard, vinyl base, acoustic ceiling tile. Carpet tile is almost, it's getting closer and closer to broadloom carpet. I don't know what your view is now, depending on what you pick. They're almost indistinguishable in price. It's a little bit more, but the first time someone drops something on it,
I'm a fan
And you
of
can
that.
just peel up a tile instead, yes.
I'm a fan of that.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we are too.
we held a little nicer in the local history room, a wood floor, wood base. Not necessary, it could be just like any other room, but we saw that as a potential donor space, you know.
How big a room is that?
That's, I don't know, it looks like about 10 by 15 or something like that. There's a scale down the bottom.
Enough to see 12, I think, right?
Yep.
Yeah, about 10 by 15. With built-ins on one end and then shelving like this on the
I have a
side.
laminate flooring.
Could be.
They have that in my basement. When I built my house, and I
Yeah. Won't you miss it?
well, no, I had to order a drop shipment of unlocked flooring.
Sure.
And we didn't, I still have probably 10 boxes of that in my basement.
All right.
I didn't hear what,
It's laminate flooring.
laminate,
Yeah.
oh, okay, yeah.
And it wears like
That's
iron.
kind of soft too. I
Hmm?
mean, it's kind of quiet. It's not as hard as the hard.
Oh, no,
piece of wood.
this is the hard stuff, I
Yeah.
think,
Yeah.
what he's talking about.
Anyways, that's the thought.
Yep.
I'm glad to
Doesn't
hear
have
that.
wood,
I'm
but-
putting donated laminate question mark.
Yeah.
Okay.
Better for you. You have the
Oh,
carpet.
yeah, you're not kidding. That carpet is awful.
So carpet, stack areas, carpet, vinyl base, painted
This is
wallboard,
today.
acoustic tile ceiling, like what you have here. No, well, not like what you have here, but comparable to what you have here. Reading areas, same thing. Offices, carpet tile, again, vinyl base. Break room, vinyl composition floor tiles. Unless you were thinking of something else?
And these are all, you know, long wearing, long lasting, low cost.
Yeah.
You know, that's what we were trying to select things.
Yep. That all looks good.
It's what the Navy would use.
Right.
Circulation, same, vinyl composition tile for the floor, same for the staff workroom.
The only thing different is the kitchenette, which is sheet flooring, where you have the potential of fluid leaking. You don't want to have joints, so it would all be
Well,
sealed.
that goes away now because we're gonna just make it like that.
It'll
Oh,
be
that's
like
right.
this with a little thing in
That's-
front of it.
that's
Maybe
right.
a little vinyl thing in front of it.
Okay.
Restroom, oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say about the restrooms, why don't we do vinyl in there too? That's what we have here. It works really well. I don't think we need ceramic.
Okay.
It's a bit of a downgrade, but it's okay. I mean, we like to do really tough stuff that you can mock forever, but I think certainly plenty have done vinyl. Vinyl and it takes away one oddball material, so it's
Right.
just the same as everything else.
Right.
Mechanical room, electric room storage are just gonna be sealed concrete, so no finish.
That's fine. We have here.
Yep. We have low VOC paint throughout, but that's become an industry standard.
Everything will be.
Yep.
What is VOC?
Volatile,
Volatile, organic,
organic.
Compounds. That's good.
So,
The bane of the paint business.
yeah. Second bane after.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, it used to be, in my tenure, you know, you'd have a brand new building and you really couldn't use it for 2 weeks because the carpet and the paint and everything, you just come coughing out of the building, and you'd have to make sure it got done not in the winter so you could leave the windows open and air the thing out. But now they have paint that you can stick your face in the can, you can't smell anything. Specialties. This is cute. It says assume 7, 3. It should say 3. 3 fire extinguishers. Wall mounted without cabinets. This is, you can correct me, this is my sort of pet thing. I don't necessarily agree that you want to make the fire extinguishers, quote, look nice. It's a fire extinguisher. It's like your defibrillator. You don't want to make it blend in, you want it to stand out. So I'm a fan of putting them on a hook where you can see them. And if you have a fire, you grab it and you put out the fire. So it is also much less expensive to hang a fire extinguisher on a hook than it is to buy an $300 cabinet and have somebody set it into the wall and the whole thing. There is a requirement at the state level, and it's adopted on a town-by-town basis, I believe.
Yeah, the fire department can say if it's necessary to monitor them or not.
We check once a month, we have a sheet and we check all the fire extinguishers once a month. And Tri-State Fire comes in once a year and looks at all of them and we get them recharged if they have to be.
Well, that's the alternate, but in some cases they're requiring, not so much municipalities, but in the private sector, there's a thing that basically weighs the fire extinguisher inside the cabinet and it automatically calls the fire department if the weight of a fire extinguisher slips below a certain threshold. And the fire departments often hate it because they get many more false alarms.
We don't have that.
Okay.
But that's something we need to check with the chief to see if he would allow us not to have monitored fire extinguishers. If that's the case, then we can save a lot of money, because it's maybe $300 for the case enclosure, but it's another $1,000 to have them monitored.
Do you want me to call them or do you want to call them?
If you want, you may. He should know, because this has been a hot topic of discussion in
Oh,
the
yeah.
state.
Very controversial.
Okay.
Few other items that we wanted to identify. I guess, signage, we probably could just get rid of 2 altogether, because that would go into the signage.
I had not necessary here.
Yeah,
Yep.
all right. We had talked in the past about ride-on boards for the program room. Okay. It's just a question of whether we want Andre to carry them in the budget or not.
Yeah.
And then a screen for projection.
We have a screen and we have the TV. I think we're okay.
What about a smart board as a donor option?
Oh, it's a wonderful thought, yeah.
Well, you might want a bigger screen than that
Yeah.
you're gonna have a bigger room.
How big is that?
That's not big.
It's just it's a regular size.
Yeah.
But it's something you
Standard.
can invest in the future, and you can just hang it from the ceiling if you wish. We can put the blocking in so that you have a place to attach it. I mean, I have a bigger one than that in my house. And but again, that's not, you don't need that to open the doors, so.
Right.
Mhm.
And we've done libraries that had motorized, we've had, ones that have automatic light environments for 3 different types of uses in their program room. We're not even going there. We're just saying you might want to have.
Okay.
Some are
We'll leave
recessed,
the screen in.
some
Yeah.
are recessed into the ceiling, so,
Take out the
okay.
directory and the write-on board.
Okay, we've got the signage for, code required signage. Some wayfind, you're it's a bigger building,
Yeah.
you want sciences, circulation, children, whatever. Toilet accessories are non-negotiable. Equipment. We're assuming that if you do a projector, which you may or may not do, it's getting to the point where just buying these bigger and bigger is less expensive.
It
but,
is.
Yeah, so, all right.
Yeah, we can take that out, I think.
Mhm. Well, they have one at the fire station, right? Don't they have a ceiling?
Yes, they
projector?
do. We've
It
used
never
it.
seems to work every
Mhm.
time, yeah, okay.
No, that's the interface, but yeah.
Yeah.
For the user.
So break room equipment,
Okay, but
we assumed that you guys would go and raid your barns to get microwaves, refrigerators,
Right.
whatever.
We'll
So
just
we're not
use what we already
holding that.
have.
It says provided by owner, installed by owner.
Yeah.
The kitchenette, we had, we probably,
I don't think we need a hard pipe coffee maker.
okay, that's out.
And we already have a microwave and a refrigerator and those are easy enough, I think, to
Okay.
either move or.
The reasoning behind that is that you may, because of the way the library is set up, the public can use the program room when you're not here.
Right.
And without using the rest of the library, and you don't want necessarily people trying to figure out, well, where's the water, or how do I use this copy? It just, but that's fine. If you're willing to assume a level of competency on the user part, you're okay.
It's been
If they
okay
can't
so
figure
far.
out how to use a coffee maker, do I want them in the building?
That's true. Well, it comes up sometimes.
I can honestly say that we haven't had any problem with that kind of stuff here.
Okay,
Since 1991, or whenever it was that we did this.
we also assume some ceiling fans, which is number 4 there, just because it may mean you can, we're gonna get to a big one, which is air conditioning, but even whether you have air conditioning or don't have air conditioning, there's gonna be that shoulder season where you can just turn on a fan and you have a few higher ceilings. You notice in the finishes, it identifies how high the ceilings are to be assumed in different rooms.
Right.
And so that's a small ticket item and with much benefit.
Yeah.
You've already incorporated putting the furniture into the furniture budget.
That's correct.
And I just highlighted here outdoor furniture because there's going to be more outdoor space, but
That we have not calculated into the FF&E.
No, and maybe for a future time or fundraiser or something like
Yeah.
that. We do have a couple of benches.
in my own town, it became a scout project, and the scouts
Oh, neat.
built Adirondack chairs for the
Oh,
library.
cool.
So, no conveying equipment, yay. That's where your elevator would have shown up. Floor-mounted china fixtures, you know, not flush armors, not wall-mounted. That's less expensive, more, it's easier for people to work on. And you're keeping the 2 bathrooms you have here, there's 2 down the way. The water fountains are,
So I'm sorry, so that's in the men's room, in the men's room, you'd have just a 4-mount fixture, you wouldn't have a urinal?
that is, they're showing 2 single occupancy,
Okay,
Yeah,
so
okay.
unisex.
Do we need to have water fountains
it's a code
Yeah.
requirement.
now? It
Yeah,
is?
it
Yeah,
is.
or, I believe if you have one of the, you can substitute like a service with a water cooler where truck comes and brings,
Right.
but you don't want to do that.
No, we had to do that here when we had a dug well and it was E. coli.
But yeah, having water
So where do
for
you put-
public use.
Where do you put those?
Well, generally near the plumbing, so
Yeah.
probably in that back hall by those,
Oh, right, okay.
and you've seen it, there's one
Yes,
high and
yep.
there's one low.
Yeah.
You can just put one low and meet the requirement of the code, and then you know, people who are standing at the.
Punch way down.
Let's see. It is legal and perfectly fine to use PEX, which is for lack of a better word, plastic water supply tubing. We can at least find out what that alternate is as opposed to copper tubing.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
A lot less?
Oh, yeah,
Okay.
a lot more reliable.
Oh, yeah.
We sell 20% of the copper we sold 10 years ago.
Yeah.
We sell 100-foot rolls of PEX like they were candy. It's my whole, well, 10 years ago. You know, I have 2 copper lines, everything else is a manifold that splits off the copper lines into
Mhm.
PEX. Water, forced hot water heating, everything. Kind of the way to go.
All the hangers are less costly, it's just
Oh,
across the
everything.
board, so.
I guess we're putting a circle around X.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, it's the
That's a-
sort of
that's a
thing
given.
that from the user's point of view, there's no visible difference.
The thing is, we need to know that you're okay with it, because then we have to tell the mechanical engineer to specify it that way, because their mind, they're thinking, this is a municipal building, we're gonna put it in to meet a standard that it's gonna be here in 100 years. And that means copper hard pipe.
Yeah, we got copper hard pipe here that didn't last 100 years.
That's right.
We got copper hard pipe here that
Yeah.
lasts 20.
He's just describing the mentality, not
That's
necessarily the
No,
reality.
I understand, but it's so much better than it used to be.
Yeah.
I mean, when the stuff first came out, it would split longitudinally.
Oh, yeah.
Remember when it first came out, it was all gray?
Yeah.
They did a 20-story building with it down in Houston. Everything, it just split longitudinally. You had to gut the 20
Story building.
story building and replace all of it. But now it can actually blow up. In fact, that's how they do the fittings now. They heat them and they expand them and it goes right back around and has memory of the fitting.
So we can cross
Smart
out
pipes.
coffee bar and kitchenette gets crossed out. Janitor's gonna have a floor-mounted sink. We are gonna assume that the sprinkler system is going to be visible.
That's
What
okay.
sprinkler system?
We don't, I don't think we need to have a sprinkler system, because we're under 10,000 square
Yeah.
feet.
We weren't sprinkled across the street.
All right?
Is that in the cost, this 1.95 million, is it sprinklers?
I believe it, wasn't it in the? you've
I
got
don't
the
know what,
spreadsheet. That's what I was reacting to when I was looking at it.
We,
Well, it just says HVAC and plumbing. It
yeah, he doesn't have it listed.
Okay.
Because it
What kind of
wasn't-
numbers he got for that?
It doesn't have.
He
it.
doesn't have it
doesn't.
listed.
All right.
No, but what's the number for all that? I mean, if I remember right, it was very expensive.
$400,000 worth of,
HVAC and plumbing, he has 216,000.
Doesn't sound like it's sprinkled.
Sprinkle is a smaller number than one realizes. For a facility of this size, it's under 50K.
yeah, but it was also the storage, because that's where we were having the issue.
That's where we were
Right.
having the issue before.
Yeah,
That's
it
right.
would
Have
be
a
the same
cistern.
issue here.
My mistake.
Yep.
can we just back up to the kitchenette
Yes.
for a second? There is gonna be a little sink in there, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, what we, yes, there is a sink,
Okay.
but I was thinking of the plumbing for the coffee machine,
Oh, okay, okay,
which just comes off the sink anyway, that's not a big deal.
okay.
HAC, okay, so we wanted to give you a number so that you know what I know the radiant slab is strongly desired, we just wanted to identify what the cost of it is.
Mhm.
You're gonna need a forced hot air system backup whether you have the radiant or don't have the radiant. That's part of the premium, because you need to be able to bring the space up to temperature even if the radiant is off. I mean, there's always even with radiant systems, there's still air to allow you to quickly change the temperature.
But that air system is also using the same ducting, would probably use the same ducting as central air, right?
Correct, if you have central air.
Oh, please.
I don't imagine ever building a municipal building anymore that does not have central air. That's penny wise and pound foolish as far as I'm concerned.
So you're telling me they've got two heating systems, the radiant heat and the forced air? And the
Every
forced
time
air-
we've done radiant heat, we've also, and it's standard practice, correct me if I'm wrong,
You're right.
you've got to have an air system, because if it's 50 in the building, coming back from some inactivity, it'll take 3 days to get it up to occupiable temperature, because you've got this big thermal mass, it's very slow.
But the forced air would handle everything.
With or without. Now, you also need mechanical ventilation by code. So you've got the ducts regardless. It's just a question of whether, and you've got a heat source to temper that air regardless. It's just a question of, in other words, just wanted to underscore that you don't replace your air system by going to the radiant system. You still have the air system. It may not be the same capacity.
So the radiant just becomes a luxury add-on.
Well, I wouldn't characterize it that way. It means your system doesn't have to work as hard and your comfort is greater at lower air temperatures. Because if you're sitting on top of a radiant slab, you feel comfortable even when the thermometer says the air around you is colder. And you certainly don't need to heat the air 3 inches below the ceiling up to 72 degrees.
I have to say that it's been hugely wonderful for here. It's been great for the kids, which is mainly the area that it's in, and the meeting room. And I didn't know, I thought the other system was just because, there's no radiant heat in the oldest part of the building, so that's why it's still. Well, it's
In a new
water.
facility, new systems, if you're gonna do radiant, then you have to have an energy recovery unit nowadays. You've gotta have fresh air ventilation nowadays to meet the energy codes and HVAC codes. And then if you're gonna have air conditioning, then it's having an outside rooftop unit RTU, and that would provide heat to offset, like Eric was talking, and it would have a coil that would chill. And that's the most efficient method to heat and cool your facility and meet all the requirements.
Got room on the roof for that with the solar panels?
Well, it may not be on the, we don't know where it's gonna go
Okay.
yet, but
Just
that's the
okay.
system, yeah. There's a conversation here to be had about mechanical systems. We're trying to assume, we know you want a gradient, so we're trying to assume a system that's going to provide all the code required items at an affordable price. We're going through this right now with a fire station where they want radiant slab in the apparatus bays, but they want air conditioning, and so they've chosen to do heat pumps, electric heat pumps that blow hot air and cooling, one system in it, and it would be powered off of the photovoltaics.
Yeah.
So there's another alternate system, but we don't know the pricing of one versus the other, because at this stage.
So they're putting just a bunch of mini splits, is that what they're doing, or for lack of a better phrase?
Yeah, but they're not, mini splits are mini splits.
Yeah.
And heat pumps are in the ceiling.
Okay.
They can be zoned so it controls multiple regions, but they function just like a mini split. They just have an outside condensing unit and an inside.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the heat pump is an interior.
So this is an elaborate discussion. We simply, the larger goal is to come up with a proposed budget that fits into the budget that you have in mind. And so we just want to put everything on the table and put a price tag on it. And you may say absolutely not, should we consider removing air conditioning, but you should know what the value of that is. So.
Mm-hmm.
That's all. And we want you to have everything. We're not advocating taking things away, but,
You, Mary?
And we're still assuming we're gonna keep this same boiler system that we have.
we are assuming that. That's what.
So we're gonna have basically 3 different systems.
Well, it may be
Really?
possible either to upgrade. That one may have enough capacity to do the rest, but, Andre can't assume
Yeah.
that. He's gonna assume more of a worst case scenario, but when we get to it, maybe you'll just replace that unit and
That's
use.
what I was assuming, but
Yeah.
that was just me. You're adding a lot of area and volume of piping, so
Right.
who knows if that's
Well, you've got to
size
move,
large
you have to
enough.
move more air. Right. So we will not end up with a patched together 15-part mechanical system. Because it's got to be easy to operate.
Yeah.
so.
Whatever happened to the New Hampshire way?
Stand over
Why
here
don't
on
we just
one
get a pellet
foot.
stove, a giant pellet stove?
We've done that. We have done that. We did the Audubon that way.
Yes,
And
I
that's
like that.
probably one of the more costly methods.
Yeah, okay.
You want to come fill it up when it
Yeah.
runs out?
Sure. No, we just have an
We'll
automatic
put the
hopper.
emergency number on your phone. or your
We'll
Until
have
it
an
jams.
automatic hopper.
Until it jams.
They've actually solved, from the generation when we did it, they've actually improved it so it starts itself again now. They have self-starting ones. Used to be, if something went wrong or it ran out or it jammed, somebody had to get up at 2 a.m. and go into the library to hit it in the right place to get it to start again, because it wouldn't start by itself. And now they have.
And
I
we
can get
have
up at 2 in the
All the
morning.
pellets.
this committee for the
I'll call you
larger
first.
new
Come
library
with me.
had this
I don't wanna do
discussion
this
about pellet boilers, the benefits, the costs, and we had the mechanical engineer here talking about it, and it was a premium to have that type of system. So
Mhm.
Okay, moving on to earthwork. There isn't much you can do about earthwork.
No, wait a minute, electrical.
Oh, did I skip electric?
Yeah.
Yes, I'm sorry. The one thing that we wondered about was daylighting control. So what that does is it dims the lights when it's bright and sunny continuously. So the light level inside the library stays the same. The sun comes out from behind a cloud, the lights dim a little bit. sun goes down, the lights come brighter a little bit. It does save your electrical consumption over the long haul. So it's one of those trade-offs of initial cost versus ongoing cost. We can put a price tag to it,
Mhm.
and then you can say, well, how much is this really saving me before I make that decision?
I also have the sensor, somebody walks in the room, the lights come on. Somebody leaves
That-
the room, the lights go out.
Yeah, that, and of course, that's not so much, a library is largely one big space. Yeah, the few small rooms.
Well, I mean, you can have the, for example, lights in the meeting room in the middle of the day when nobody's using it.
Yeah,
Usually you have those lights automatically turn off if there's no presence.
you can, and that's not a big deal anymore. It used to be, 10 years ago, it was an elaborate thing, and now it's pretty standard.
Think about the time in the future sometime when the meeting room is gonna look a little like this, you know?
Yeah.
And the lights will need to be on all the time.
And then nobody's in there getting a book and the lights go off, and it looks empty and dark. And then you walk in and the lights come on.
Right.
That's
Well,
what we're
it's
talking about.
It's a tree falling in the forest.
Yeah.
If no one's there to see if the lights are out, are they really out? So, anyway, site work, pretty much untouchable. Exterior improvements, here's an interesting one to contemplate. It makes sense while you're paving an additional parking lot as big or slightly larger than the one you have to put another course on the one that you do have. It's not necessary. You could just start at the end here and go that way, and then 4 years out, you'd have to do it as you would have if you weren't doing the project. I think it's only a few $1,000s, but you could also just top coat it and restripe it so that it all looked uniform.
Yeah.
But,
Now, your wearing course is just, that's just a second coat.
yeah.
Or as Route 109 was described, I saw this on the other thing, when they did Route 109, in like an hour and a half, it was paved,
Yeah.
somebody put down tourist coat.
Yeah.
And I asked him, it was Bob Murray put it down, and he said, no, that wasn't even original to him, so it's been around for a while. Best line I've ever read in Facebook. Tourist coat.
So there's nothing else on that. Given the special situation of this building, what we like to do when possible is perimeter drainage around the building and then have that pipe end in daylight somewhere. And that's gonna be pretty tough to do because you've got wetlands on this side, wetlands on that side. Unless you do something pretty heroic and get a pipe all the way under the road or something, it's gonna be hard to do that. I mean,
How
they'll
about
be.
dumping into the fire pond?
I don't know what the elevation of the fire pond is, but that may be, I just wanted to know whether this detail, because remember, you don't have a basement, you just have a 4-foot frost wall around,
Mhm.
and you usually put a drain down at the bottom of the footing.
What we like to do is have the pipe because it relieves the hydrostatic pressure pushing on the underside of the slab, so water's not coming up and making the floor moist.
Right.
And you can deal with that under the slab and around the perimeter. These kinds of things are sometimes dictated to us by what the geotechnical report says.
All right, well, this is probably not an issue for Andre to speculate over,
Right,
so let's just,
I would leave it.
right, I'll just leave it. I just noted, can we do that? So why don't we go to
Given that it's a
the,
wet site, I'd leave it.
go to the numbers, your spreadsheet, Anthony.
Yeah.
Unless is there anything that we haven't?
No.
No, okay. No other bright ideas? No.
Yep.
This is just a revised, here we can pass it around, based on the email that you sent, kind of looking at the documents that have been given to you. You suggested various cuts from the budget, and mainly they had to do with the FF&E, the furniture
Yes.
fixture in the lower
Yeah.
portion.
Yeah.
Right, so we were able, you were rightfully suggesting to take out the phone system, computer system, the moving, you know, we were carrying numbers just to kind of plan on something, but if you feel as though we can get volunteers to move the furniture around in and out.
I sure hope so.
Yeah, and you suggested taking a few $1,000s out of the landscaping budget. In any event, this recalculates. We also were carrying $150,000 in the owner contingency. We like to carry 10% at this stage. 150,000 is a lot of money. We brought it down to 100,000. Even 100,000, you know, gives you a certain amount of funds to purchase things that haven't been considered, or if there's found conditions that end up costing more that the Bowen doesn't have in his own contingency, then we would use the owner's contingency. But
actually, the fact that the construction manager is carrying a contingency to cover it on his side of the ledger, there's actually a contingency on top of a contingency. So in that sense, it's probably reasonable to reduce this to $100,000.
yeah,
When we get to the point where there's real drawings and a real number, we'd probably combine them into one sensible contingency. So say, we're hedging our bets on this, he's hedging his bets on that, and it has a multiplying effect. So.
Okay.
so before, you know, last week when we came, the total project budget was 1.953. So just going through on the soft cost sides, it's down to 188.
Right, so that's important. This is just soft cost changes. It doesn't reflect any of the things we talked about over here.
On Andre's hard number, the construction side.
Mm-hmm. It's a good start.
Yeah.
Now, with the package that we're going to provide Andre and with a clarified outline specification, we're hoping that his construction number, which he had at 1.495, will tighten up a bit. We don't know how much yet, but that's what we're shooting for.
Well, at this point, you know, we have to find, $150,000 in the construction on a $1.5 million number, and should be doable.
Should be doable.
Okay.
And the fact that you consider possibly adjusting your operating hours, that would probably help significantly, because if he can mobilize the troops and work during the weeks, normal business hours, it'll be more efficient, less costly in overall time, and that saves in general conditions costs, monthly general condition costs, and usually the subcontractors' bids will be more cost effective.
I mean, even simple things like, it's 19 guys with pickup trucks. Where do they all park? Well, if the library's not open.
Across the street.
Well, right, but I'm saying, right.
Or there's one house.
Carry your toolbox.
The one
Yeah.
house
Yeah.
that was being built was a total tear down except for the chimney and rebuilt on 109. And on any given day, you know what I'm talking about, Tom Bigelow's old house?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
On any given day, there were 20 trucks,
Yeah.
either down in the driveway or along the road.
Yeah, yeah. And actually, the ease of getting to the job and doing the job psychologically influences the subcontractor's bids. You know?
Mm-hmm.
Good.
Good, that's a good start. Now, I had anticipated more people here this morning, because it has been brought to my attention by a couple of people that maybe we're not going about this the right way, as far as, using a construction manager. Maybe we just, bid it out like as if you were just, a design and a build. And I wanted to make sure that we were all on the same page as to the advantage of the way we are going versus just take the design, put the bids out, and let general contractors out there go after it.
Well, if we had assumed that from the beginning, you wouldn't have uncovered this potential issue until bid day.
Mhm.
And then you'd be scrambling. And then we'd be, redrawing things that we'd already drawn once a different way.
Okay.
And it would be under the gun and, there'd be all this pressure, whereas this is the soft landing approach. Identify the issues, come up with debate and come up with logical solutions to them, adjust, and then every single line item, all these divisions will be bid by subcontractors.
Mhm.
And those bids will be shared with us at this table, and you are at liberty to say, yes, this one's low, but we know that this sub is trouble, or yes, this one's $100 higher, but lives in the next town, and that's where we should be spending our dollars, or whatever. So it's more of a hands-on approach.
Okay.
General contracting, the traditional bid, it's opaque. You can't tell where, and you have no right to know where the subs are coming from or what their track record is. So,
And if there's savings that the general contractor is able to find by substituting material or
just a windfall.
Or a
Good weather, no late winter.
they get all that savings.
Mhm.
In the construction management mode, it's all open book, and anything that the CM is able to find stays in the pot of money that's yours. And if something comes up and you need to spend something, then it comes out of that pot of money, but at the end of the day, whatever's left over is yours and never spent.
And it is that guaranteed maximum price too, right?
Right.
You know,
So once we get a price, that's it.
That's
It's never
it.
gonna be, it's not gonna be more than that, and it quite possibly might be less than that.
Quite possibly might.
Well, not only quite possibly, I mean, this particular team, we've done how many libraries with this particular sub? 2 or 3, I don't know.
Yeah.
And at the end of each of those, we have returned smaller or larger checks to the kitty.
Yeah.
There's always been money left over. which is-
We've never used the full guaranteed maximum price when working with Bowen, ever. Doesn't matter what the project type is.
I remember, I think in Plasto, it was 27,000 returned at the end, and that was years ago, when 27,000 was,
150,000.
Right.
You know.
Yeah.
but,
But Andre's conservative. He gets anxious about giving numbers early on because he knows how people are going to hold him to that, and then he's got to work hard to kind of maintain the numbers when the industry is doing this. And it's out of his control in a way, but he's very frugal. He's managing the Belknap Community Correction Project that we're nearing completion on, and the open book process is very, very good. Everybody on the committee knows where we are, and every time that he's able to get savings on concrete or curbing, he shows you, this is going back over here.
Okay, well, as I said, this was not necessarily a conversation just for us, it was a conversation.
sure.
More people than I thought who might be here based on last week's attendance, so.
Yep. Okay.
Okay. Well, now now we'll just have to wait to hear what he has to say.
All right.
Okay. We have a meeting with the selectmen on Monday afternoon. They've got us, they've got us scheduled about 4:30.
4:30.
And we'll bring them up to speed as to what we're doing and so on and so forth. Is that your copy of the?
Yes.
You
It
brought
is.
that with you, right?
This is one.
Oh, aren't you nice? Thank you very much. Okay. No, just so, just so we can show them
Yep.
what we're thinking about. And
We can leave you the backside too. That has, just snapshots out of the video.
yeah, okay.
I like it that we're beachfront in the top one, you know, with the
Yeah, right.
little islands
This right
in
here?
there.
Yeah, I know. isn't that
We had to
something?
cut that.
Fantastic. Okay then,
John?
I guess so, thank you.
You're welcome.